We used to have a Liberal Party that talked about the single mom and the difficult time that she's having, being able to pay for groceries and take her kids to soccer practice. We used to care. They used to care about the tradesman who's lost his job because of whatever downturn has happened or whatever consolidation has happened because of these additional regulations. They used to care about the average family just trying to make ends meet, and I don't hear them talking that way anymore. That's the thing that so surprises me is where did all of that heart, where did all that compassion go? Those are the things that Pierre Poilievre is talking about right now. I hear Pierre talking more about the plight of regular people and the difficulties that they're having making ends meet. I know that is very much on my mind about how do we counteract all these terrible policies so that people can just afford the basics of life. And I don't know when the Liberals stop caring, but it's so obvious that what you've described is true, that they're not putting people first anymore.
Yeah. Well, it is very interesting to see. Well, Ford has done the same thing in Ontario, that Ford and Poilievre have really become the voice of the working class. And I see, the thing is, you kind of see that with Trump in the US too. And I think it's because we've actually developed the realization on the classic liberal and conservative front that there is no better pathway forward for rectifying the economic misery of the poor than the free market system. And so, to the degree that that's the case, and now I think the case for that is unassailable unless you're literally criminally blind, that it's easy now for the conservatives who used to be the party of big business, let's say, which is kind of what they were when I was a young guy, to be speaking directly to the working class. Is we're going to declutter the system. We're going to get rid of the idiot environmental taxes that do nothing but make your life more difficult and increase pollution. And we're going to serve you. And I think Poilievre has done that very effectively. Now, can you envision, how do you feel about the unity, let's say, of the conservative movement in Canada now? There's a number of conservative premiers who seem to be ideologically on board with your approach. There's Scott Moe and Blaine Higgs, and so at minimum. And so, and I don't know what your relationship is like with Doug Ford. And then we have Poilievre, of course, who's a rising star and is very much likely to be the next prime minister. I mean, so is your view of Canada's future at the moment optimistic fundamentally? And if it's optimistic, what is that optimism tempered by? Let me just add one more preamble to that. See, I'm afraid that what's going to happen is that the Canadian economy is far worse than people think, and that we're going to discover a lot of things under the carpet that were hidden by the Trudeau government. Now, the evidence of that is he has a bloody scandal every week that should be sufficient to bring down his government, like the last scandal we just had about the airlifting of the Sikh people out of Afghanistan. It's one a week. And so we're going to see a lot of things that we don't know about the second Pierre Poilievre is elected, and they're going to be instantly blamed on him by the environmentalists and the Greens. And then he's going to have maybe 4 years to mop up what is one god-awful mess. And so, I could see a scenario where he's in for 4 years. All those Canadians who have to remortgage, which I believe is about 60% of them, are going to do that and lose their houses. And it's going to be like really a rough go for him. And then the Liberals will replace him. So now, that's a pessimistic view. And I'm not saying that will happen, but man, it isn't obvious to me that I'd like to be in his shoes. So, how are you conceptualizing, let's say, the next 5 years in Canada? And when's your next election?
My next election is October of 2027. So I have a bit of runway. I'd make a point that, and you've touched on it, and you've hit it. I talked to a young analyst who was looking and tracking at Justin Trudeau's declining popularity. And he also is tracking the number of mortgage renewals that are happening each month, and it tracks perfectly. The more people who are having to renew their mortgage and now face the sticker shock of having double the mortgage payment because of their high rates, then they look around and say, who's caused this? And the obvious answer is the guys who've been in charge for the last 9 years. Who's got a solution for it? And the obvious answer is Pierre Poilievre. And so that's very linked to what it is that they're experiencing. And it's happening in real time and happening very quickly, and it will probably accelerate. I would say that, am I optimistic about conservatism? I would say that the conservatives, this new generation of conservative leader, whether it's Pierre or whether it's my colleagues across the country, we've begun to realize that aspirationally, the blue collar workers and those trades unions are more aligned with our conservative values than they are with the extreme green alignment that we're seeing out of the Liberals, the Green Party, and the Socialists, the New Democrats. If I was a frontline worker, I would say, why in the world would I support any of those parties? Because all they're doing is advocating for job losses. They don't want to see these high-paying resource jobs be successful. They haven't invested in raising the parity of esteem for the skilled trades and professions the way we talk about it in the conservative movement. And part of the reason that we do is that we've seen the pathway that kids were told. Kids were told, well, graduate from high school, go to university and get a bachelor degree. And then after that, get a master's. And then after that, get a PhD. And then you will be the highest paid workers in society, because the more education you have, the more you're going to get paid. And what has happened, in fact? Well, those kids who've gone down that pathway end up with $100,000 or $200,000 worth of student loan debt. And now they're in their late 30s and trying to get out of the workforce, and their degree isn't as valued as much as they were led to believe it was going to be. And now they're trying to get married and get a home, and now the home prices have escalated. And so now they have to put off having kids because they can't afford to have kids, pay a mortgage, and pay off their student loan debt. But there's another way. You can actually encourage kids who are practical and want to do something with their hands and want to do some meaningful work in the resource sector. Go out, get dual credit in high school, maybe have a couple of years at a trades program. You start working right away, making 60 to, in some cases, these jobs are $200,000 a year. You become an immediate taxpayer. You pay off your debt. You have the ability to buy a home or build a home, because depending on the profession that you go into. Then you can get married. You can have kids. You can buy your house. You can afford your life. It's a different vision, and that's why I think that we understand a lot more about how vitally important those high-paying resource jobs are. It's not just about economy. It's about human flourishment. It's about being able to live the life you want to live. And most of us, we just want to find our life mate partner, be able to get married, be able to have kids, be able to take care of families, take vacations, go camping, and do those kinds of things that when we look back to our own childhood, seem to be getting further and further out of reach. But I think that are linked. That's why I think the approach that Doug Ford has taken, and even in the approach in the United States, where the Republicans realize that the frontline blue-collar workers have way more in common with the conservative side of the spectrum these days than the ideological side that we're seeing in the extreme green movement that is influencing all the progressive parties.